Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this energy meeting in Sønderborg municipality. My name is Thomas Bjørn Luthi, and you will be listening to my voice this evening because when you have any questions, you can send it through to us via the chat on YouTube or SMS, and I'll be answering them. But now enough from me, I'll hand it over to the presenters of the evening. To begin with, we will have the Head of Sustainability, Nature and Rural Areas, Inge Olsen. Good evening everyone to this webinar where we will hear more about how to achieve a healthy and energy efficient home. The Danish Energy Agency has worked in collaboration with Project Zero and Sønderborg municipality to put together tonight's program, which will take course over the next hour. Tonight there will be 3 presentations, and we will firstly hear about how to achieve a healthy and energy efficient home. Afterwards, we will hear about what subsidy possibilities exist in the building fund, which will open soon for new applicants. Last but not least, we will get some good advice from the municipality's Department of Building and Housing when we as homeowners want to expand, renovate, or for example, get a new energy source. In Sønderborg since 2007, we have worked towards becoming CO2 neutral in 2029. This transition of our society happens in a public-private collaboration known as Project Zero. Since 2007, we have managed to reduce our CO2 emissions with 52%. This effort is ongoing in our companies, our agriculture, housing communities, transportation, shops, and not least with you, our citizens and homeowners. The public buildings are responsible for 8% of the CO2 emissions. Therefore, it's important to have focus here too. We all feel the climate change, increasing energy prices, and therefore it's a really good idea to use less energy and most importantly, to transition to green energy sources. So that's why we have done all we could to broadcast this to as many of you as possible. And those who aren't able to be here tonight, you have the option to revisit tonight's program via YouTube. But we have shared this via the municipality's Facebook profile, Project Zero's Facebook, and not least we've tried to target the owners of the 1,000 homes that have been purchased in Sønderborg municipality within the past year. We have done this because we understand that as new homeowners, we are eager to improve around the home, but we want to highlight that they try to invest in energy efficient solutions. What we experience is that many of those who move here and purchase houses in our area, they don't only speak Danish but also German and English. Therefore, this will be translated and the English version will be uploaded later as our translator has been affected by COVID. During the evening, you have the opportunity to ask questions via the chat or SMS. You can do this on 27 90 54 69. So please enjoy, and I hope you get some new and helpful information. I'll pass it on to the first presenter, Lena Nørmark from the Danish Energy Agency. Good evening and welcome to this webinar, which will inform about how to have a good start to renovating your home and how you can save money, time and perhaps CO2. A little bit about me before I get started. My name is Lene Nørmark. I'm educated as a construction engineer specializing in energy and indoor climate. I work as an energy counselor in the Danish Energy Agency's advisory service at sparenergi.dk. I visit many homes throughout my career and I've seen a bit of everything. I'm a former energy rating consultant. Most of you can relate to having a lot of dreams to renovate your first house, but there can be many dilemmas. This could be troublesome, for example, if you have a busy schedule, a large and complicated house project. It could also be that you have many plans, but not a lot of money. And finally, you may wish to be a climate conscious consumer. But what is common for most of us, or most of you, is that you seek good advice and wish to learn more about energy efficient improvements. The Danish Energy Agency has made a campaign called the Completely Green Homeowners. This helps first home buyers and owners in general to consider sustainable options when you renovate, because many barriers and plans and dreams and choices in the improvement process gives a need for more information and advice. This campaign can be beneficial for others, not just new homeowners. There are many important aspects to improving the energy efficiency of a home and for the climate. The number of housing combined in Denmark makes up for 40% of CO2 emissions. So it's a heavy burden on the climate, and that's why we need you on board. If we look at the average Dane and his or her CO2 emissions, we can see that traveling makes an impact when we fly. It also makes an impact what we eat. And there are new recommendations on what we can eat or what we should eat. There's also other things such as the things we buy that makes a large impact. But if we look at the energy consumption of the average home, you can see that there is a high level of CO2 emissions. The emission of the CO2 correlates to 6 flights per year from Copenhagen to Paris and back. Whereas if you heat your home with an oil furnace, the emissions would correlate to flying 15 times a year. If you have a gas furnace, the emissions would lay somewhere in between the two columns. So be aware of which type of energy source you have and if you can save energy. There are many advantages of considering sustainable options when renovating. It could be, for example, to improve the climate, improve the value of the home, perhaps some warmer surfaces, increased comfort, perhaps more money available when you save on the energy bill. You could also have a more climate-friendly source of heating than you have today. A visual improvement, for example, the architectural aesthetics of the home.
less draft, perhaps less maintenance, so that you don't have to worry about all the things that need to be fixed. If you're out there thinking about what you could get out of your energy improvements, we would like to hear about it. Write it in the chat or tell us later. It's very exciting for us to know what is important to you. Then we have made a survey in relation to what is important to you. The economy and time is the most common barrier, and many people are also considerate of the climate. But 21% have responded that time is a barrier, and then there's 47% that say that they have a tight economy that is a large barrier and prevent them from renovating. And 74% have said that energy optimizing is really important for a sustainable future, but with these barriers it can be challenging. If it's a busy schedule and a tight economy, and if it's the tight economy that is the barrier, we have some good advice for that. The first could be to look at the house's energy rating and choose the option that offers the best combination between price and profitability. You can see this in the energy rating of the house. You can also take advantage of the subsidies available. You can also look at your own habits in your everyday life and save energy. There are 3 options that you can save that can help you to save time on a busy schedule. If you're busy, you can also look at the energy rating and look at what recommendations that the energy consultant has noted and see if they are relevant for you to follow. You can also find an energy advisor who can take control of the whole process. This could be to run the time-consuming tasks and also hire the right craftsman at the right time in the process. You can also access Energi.dk and find our energy solutions. There are some good descriptions on how to get from A to B and what needs to be done. For example, how much insulation is needed and where to place the vapor or wind barriers. It may not be sure that you want to do this yourself, but then talk to a craftsman about the improvements. There are 3 options to make a difference to the climate. You can also look at the energy ratings, as you can also see how much CO2 you save. Then there are tax deductions and subsidies that are given to some of the most energy efficient solutions. You can also consider which material you use when renovating to ensure that they are climate-friendly materials. But how do you get off to a good start and how can you begin? We've put together a toolbox for you. So we have put together this toolbox. You can find it all in Energi.dk. That really helps you to get started. There are a lot of information in here and many tools too. Energi.dk is the Danish Energy Agency's site about electricity usage, heating usage, energy solutions in the home, and you can also find a lot of knowledge. There is also a subsidy calculator where you can calculate how much you can save in your home. And there are also energy solutions where you can get ideas on how to implement the renovations so that they are done correctly. There is also a craftsman list, especially if you just bought a new house. Where would you know where to contact the relevant craftsman if you haven't had a need for them before? So here you can go in, type your address and find a relevant craftsman. There are many good cases in here of similar situations where they tell about their experiences. What did they do? What did it cost? What would they have done differently? But on top of this, there are many other good tools, such as a heat pump list where you can find a heat pump, and you can also find how much you save by changing your energy source, etc. Then we have made a completely new landing page for new homeowners. Here we've gathered all the relevant points when you've just bought a new house, or if you have a house that isn't quite energy efficient yet. It's both dedicated to those who consider buying or those who have bought a home already. Here you can see all your options and what to check in your home and what indoor climate could also mean for you. In relation to an energy rating, it can show a few things. You can visit Spar Energy, search your address, and you can find the energy rating in here if you don't know yourself. The energy rating shows the house's condition on a scale from A to G. A is actually split up into 3 levels depending on which building regulations it was built on. But on top of this scale, which tells us about the house's condition today, you can look at the energy rating to understand what suggestions are relevant to improve or renovate your house. It's a good place to start to look and get some more details. And energy consultants compile their suggestions in these energy reports, which can be used to see what steps you should take first, for example, by indicating which steps give the fastest financial return. You can also see if you have an energy rating G and you execute all the suggested improvements, what energy rating and savings would you end with afterwards? You could also have a new heating source. It could be that you have a gas heating or oil furnace, and in particular increasing energy prices where it could be relevant to look into to change. You could go into the website, type in your address, and you'll be able to calculate how the gas or oil furnace compares to district heating, thermal heating, water heating, and what you can expect in investment and savings. You can also read more about the different types. And as you can see, energy prices are increasing and have been rising significantly in 2021. If you look at the graph here, you can see in particular gas and electricity heating prices have increased significantly. So if you have heated up your home with gas in 2021, you maybe had an energy bill of 14,000 Danish kroner per year. This bill would all of a sudden become a bill of 21,000 per year. So it's still very expensive to heat up with oil. We can't say so much about district heating because district heating can depend on a number of different fuels depending on where you live. So So it could be that if you live in a place with more combustible fuels, you could experience an increase in pricing, whereas clean biomass fuels, you may not experience an increase at all. Lena, we will just jump in here with some questions to these slides. One asks, what is best, district heating or heating pumps? And the next question is, what can we expect regarding prices for gas and oil in 2022? Well, we recommend that if you have the option to have district heating, then this is typically the cheapest self-implemented solution. It is much cheaper than having the option with gas or oil. If you live in an area where you cannot get district heating, then we recommend heating pumps because it is cheap to run, climate friendly, and requires next to no maintenance. It is difficult to say regarding the increase of pricing, as there are a lot of reasons why pricing can rise. It could be a mix of not having enough rain in Norway, where we can get our water energy from. Perhaps there is not a lot of wind around Europe, where we get our wind power from. Simultaneously, the gas prices have increased because there have been some hard winters, and all of this in combination causes prices to go up and up. If this will continue or if it will stagnate, it's very difficult to say, unfortunately. But we will never have gas or oil prices that will be cheaper than district heating or heating pumps. That's the direction we are heading politically, which is reflected by the tolls. But if you would like to have some advice, you can take advantage of some different options. On sparenergi.dk, you can find some consultants here. These are typical engineers or craftsmen who have a higher education in climate or energy consumption in homes. You can also search for them in your own area by typing in your address. You can also get in touch with an energy consultant who could be, for example, one who evaluates the energy rating. You can also find them in sparenergi.dk. You can also see in Project Zero's website which energy consultant is in your area via their craftsman list. And as I mentioned, we also have this craftsman's list when you can type in your address and see what different competencies they have. Lena, we now have a few extra questions which fit to this slide. Despite being online, we are taking questions live as they come. What should I look for in windows? And for the next question, can it be beneficial to after insulate when you have 150 millimeters of insulation in the roof? If I start with the insulation, we recommend if you have under 200 millimeters, then you should after insulate up to 300 or maybe even 400 millimeters. It's for sure if you heat up the house with pure electricity, then it's a better financial gain to after insulate if you heat with heat pumps. In relation to windows and what you should look for are the legal requirements which ensure the windows have 3 layers. But if you choose this one or that one, it's difficult to say. For some, blocking out noise is a priority, therefore some noise cancelling windows would be the best option. For others, the sun intake could be an issue, so windows that protect us from the sun could be the ones to look for. But we have a lot of tools in sparenergi.dk where you can calculate the savings from swapping a thermal window to an energy efficient window. Or if you have a thermal window with a really solid windsill and I only want to change the window glass to an energy efficient glass, what would I then save and how much could it then cost? We also have these checklists and a building guide found in the landing page about the completely green homeowners. You can go into the building guide and say, I have an older house, so what are the 5 most common things I need to check? Or if I have a standard house from the 1980s, what are then the most common things to check? So check out these guides. There are many different types of buildings when you can likely find the type of building that you own. You know, we have asked you a few questions during the presentation, and if for you out there, if you have any questions now, write them in the chat or SMS and we will ask Line. We will now give about 30 seconds for us to receive them. But Line, here in Sønderborg, we are known for optimizing energy. We have come far from oil and gas furnaces that we almost have none left. That's why I want to revisit the question, heating pumps or district heating? If you have access to district heating, then this is typically the best solution and often the cheapest investment and low maintenance. So go in and check the available district heating and what the prices are, and check out what this could mean for your energy bill. If you don't have access to district heating, then heating pumps. They are cheap and effective, and we would like to have these rolled out in areas away from district heating because they are a very good solution. Thank you very much, Line. We will come back to you shortly as we take a small break and present the attractive things we have here in Sønderborg. This summer, Sønderborg will open its doors to the world's largest and most important climate conference on energy efficiency. And it's no coincidence that we're chosen to host. This is because Denmark is well ahead when it comes to the efficient use of energy. And in Sønderborg, we are at the forefront. We have high ambitions in Sønderborg, so high that it resonates globally. With Project Zero, we have set ourselves a goal that makes sense to us. We want to reach zero by 2029, and we are already well on track. Since 2009, we have more than halved our CO2 emissions, and in fact, not many cities in the world have achieved this. Now we get a chance to show what we can do in Denmark and here in Sønderborg. But even though we have started, we have still some way to go. In order to achieve the goals, we must together produce even more renewable energy from wind, sun and biogas in the coming years, while saving more energy and CO2. Project Zero's vision and goal of an integrated energy system already provided many of the right answers. But if we are really to move forward on climate change, it is essential that we also share our knowledge with the rest of the world, so you can inspire even more people to take the journey towards zero. So mark your calendars on the 8th and 9th of June 2022, where Sønderborg will show the way to the world. Welcome back, Line, and also all of you watching with us. We have Line Nørmark with us from the Danish Energy Agency, and now we will talk about subsidies and deductions for energy renovations and heating. But before we get started, I have received a question online which says if I need to find specific knowledge, should I just visit your website? There is for sure a lot of specific knowledge and good information in our website. But you can also call us on the weekdays from 8 to 5 p.m. and I'll come with the details later. We also have an email which you can write to and a chat box you can write into. So there are many options to get information and guidance if you can't find it in the website. Now we will talk about subsidies and deductions, and there are a few options. There's the building fund, which I'll dive into. Then there's the scrapping scheme, which can cause some confusion for some. It is not a direct subsidy for homeowners, but an option to have a subscription to heating pumps. So if you don't want to buy it yourself, you can pay for a subscription instead for the heat you use. Then there's someone else who is responsible for owning and operating the pump. Then there's craftsman deductions, which will actually discontinue from the 1st of April, but you can still make use of it. Then there is the decoupling scheme. This means that if you have a gas furnace, it costs money to decouple from gas and discard of the gas monitor. And this money you can actually get refunded via the scheme. Then there's also a discount for those who are using electricity heating. You get 1.11 krona discount per kilowatt hour if you use 4,000 per year. It is quite a significant discount. If we take the craftsman's deductions, you can get 12,900 krona per person from 2020, but only till 1st of April. There are many of the same projects who can get subsidies from the building fund, but you can't take advantage of both at the same time. So it is either the building fund or the craftsman deduction. Now the craftsman deduction is ending. It may not be as relevant to consider this. Line, now I have a question. I live in Sønderborg and my children go to the German school, and we have many newcomers from Germany who don't quite understand the deductions. So can you briefly describe what the craftsman deduction actually is? Yes, the craftsman deduction is when you have paid a craftsman to, for example, after insulate your roof, the working salary that is shown on the invoice that you get from the craftsman can be deducted from tax. You can look more into this on skat.dk. This means that you don't have to pay tax on some of the invoice. There are some projects that are not valid for the building fund, but are valid for the craftsman deduction. For example, switching out the terrace door or installing a wind heating pump. This could also be for setting up solar panels. Lena, I have a question here. Does that mean I can get a deduction on the materials, or is it the salary, or what is it? For the craftsman deduction, it only applies to the salary of the craftsman. So of course, if you do it yourself, then there are no deductions. If we talk about the building fund, the subsidies that apply here are based on both the salary of the craftsman and the materials, but it still needs to be a craftsman who performs the job. I will explain a bit more on the rules, but it is not do-it-yourself projects. Typical subsidies are if you have a house that is 140 square meters, would be 19,000 krona if you install a heating pump that is rated A with 3 pluses. It would be 8,400 krona if you insulate the roof. And if you change your windows to energy rating 2, then you'll get 27,500 krona. But if you choose windows with energy rating 1, you will only get 7,750 krona. So there's a big difference in subsidy depending on which windows you decide. But you can go into the website below and calculate specifically for your home. The subsidy is also dependent on the size of the house, because the bigger the house, the more it typically costs to renovate. What you need to know is that you need to apply before you get started. So it's not a subsidy for acute projects. So if the gas breaks tomorrow, you cannot get subsidy to change the furnace the day after. You need to apply first, get permission, and then you can start. The building needs to have an energy rating with E, F, or G if you want subsidies for energy saving projects. The energy rating needs to be from 1st October 2012 or later. But everyone can get subsidies for heat pumps, so you don't need any energy rating at all. That means if you have an oil furnace, gas furnace, or wood furnace, everyone can apply for subsidies for heat pumps. It just requires that your building and housing registration is updated. I have just received another question. Is this fund open all the time or only once in a while? And how can we keep updated on it? The fund is not open right now. It opens at the beginning of the quarter. We don't know the exact date, but we expect to know soon. But if you visit the website and sign up for the newsletter and mark off at subsidies, then you get the information as soon as we know the opening date. You also need to know if you want to install a heat pump, it needs to be an official WE approved installer who does it. Additionally, it doesn't matter what you do. If you want to get subsidy from the building fund, it must be a tax registered craftsman. You cannot do it yourself. What you need to remember before you get started, figure out what you are applying for. Check that the building and housing registration is updated. This is because the Danish Energy Agency checks these details are correct. They also collect data from there, so if it says you have a different type of furnace than stated, then you may qualify for a different subsidy. Get proof of ownership of the house. You can get this from tinglysning.dk, but I will get into the guidance of all of this soon. Also check if you have an energy rating if you want to apply for something other than heating pumps. All of this happens digitally. You can apply via sparenergi.dk. You should also know that you have 2 years from when you get permission to when you need to execute your project. So you don't need to execute right away. You have 2 years to evaluate if you will. But once you are finished, once you are finished with the project and send through all your documentation, there can be 6 months until you receive the payment in your account. And as said, the fund opens at the beginning of the quarter. In the website, there is a guide where you can check if you can get any subsidies or how to get an energy rating. And at point 3, you can read all about the application process with guidance and relevant links. You can also have consultations with our Better Living and Energy Rating consultants. And you can ring to us on the weekdays from 8 to 5 p.m. and Fridays from 8 to 3 p.m. And we also have an email in which you can write to. You can see the email on the screen. So that will mean that I have just moved to Sønderborg from Germany or somewhere else and do not quite understand Danish, but I can always call or write to you for help. Yes. It might not be that we are perfect in German, but you can write a mail, which might be easier. Thank you very much, Lena. And we know you will hang on here with us for the rest of the evening and after the next presentation. So if there are more questions, Lena will help us to answer them. Thank you. Now we will take a break and get ready for a visit from the Sønderborg municipality, where we get Paul in, who knows a lot more about what is happening locally. See you in a minute's time.
LED-pærer kan købes med kold eller varm farvetemperatur, alt efter hvilket lys du ønsker i dine forskellige rum. Lysets farvetemperatur kaldes Kelvin. En Kelvin-værdi på 2700 giver et varmt lys, som du kender det fra glødepæren. Og en høj Kelvin-værdi giver et køligere lys i stil med dagslys. De fleste af os kan godt lide det varme lys, fordi det både er hyggeligt og afslappende. Men det kølige lys kan også have sine fordele. Det holder os nemlig vågne og aktive. Lysets styrke kaldes lumen. 800-1000 lumen er en god lysstyrke i køkkenet og over spisebordet. 470 lumen er godt til stuen, og 250 lumen er godt i soveværelset. Hvis du har lysdæmper på dine lamper eller spots i huset og skifter til LED, er det vigtigt at købe LED-pærer, der kan dæmpes. Det kan du altid tjekke på emballagen. Skifter du lavvolds halogenspots til LED-spots, vil du nogle gange opleve, at dine nye LED-spots ikke lyser. Det er fordi transformeren, som sender strøm til dine nye LED-spots, ikke virker med LED. Det er ikke farligt, men det er en god idé at få en elektriker til at se på det. Vil du vide mere om LED, så klik ind på sparenergi.dk/belysning.
Hi, my name is Paul Nørberg Kjeldal, and I work in Sønderborg municipality in the department that deals with private construction cases called building and housing. I process inquiries regarding any type of construction that citizens have in their homes. I want to talk about the municipality's role in this by addressing different areas in the municipality and tell you what the municipality can offer for the citizens. These are energy sources, those that heat or cool down the house, the healthy home, our building and housing register, which has to be updated, and as Lena has mentioned, building cases that can help update the building and housing register, BBR. And finally talk about the angle of approach in the municipality and invite you to use the quick cafe. Before we continue, Paul, we have a question. What is the building and housing register? It is a register that controls many different things. As an owner of a house, it is your responsibility to update that register. You receive a BBR message telling you what is registered for your house and that you have to see if it fits with your house. Are the notes of the area correct? Is this actually what I use the building for? Are these materials as they are supposed to, and so on? I'll tell you much more about this when I address the point in my presentation. Beginning with the energy source, like Lena mentioned, it can be many different sources. In connection with the municipality's goal of CO2 neutrality in 2029, we suggest the following sources: thermal heating pumps, ground to water, which you can see at the second picture, which converts the energy or outside temperature to something waterborne inside the house, like a radiator or underfloor heating pipes. When you have these water pumps, you have to remember that there are expenses of having them, because just like any other technical equipment you have, such as a car or something else, they require maintenance, and it should be preceded by people who know what they are doing. For this, I want to make a reference to the list of craftsmen on the Project Zero's website who are specialized in these types of initiatives. The houses we live in may well be healthy. They can be healthy in many different ways, and it can feel pleasant to stay in the different manners. Some of the things that enter our houses from outside that we need to be aware of are, of course, rain, wind, cold, heat, but also, for instance, radon. Radon is a radioactive gas that derives from the underground and is supposed to be ventilated out of the houses. Otherwise, the gases will create an unhealthy indoor environment and may cause cancer. Regarding humidity problems, these may emerge from humidity in the soil if you don't have a proper vapor shield that prevents humidity from entering the house. If you have constructions that don't protect the house from the outside cold temperature merging with inside warm temperatures, you risk a thermal bridge is formed, which is a perfect environment for mold to live in. This is an unhealthy home. Getting back to the build and housing register needs to be updated all the time, and the house owner is responsible for this. In a building process, you should update the register. You have to ensure that a building is used with the purpose registered. For instance, the shed is used by the kids to play in, and if it is heated for this purpose, you need a building permit, and this we can help with at the municipality. Some of the changes you may do on your house need a building permit, and that is something we can help you apply for. We can also establish a dialogue with facilities that facilitate also the process of applying for a permit, because there are many urban areas in Sønderborg subjected to action area plans. In these plans, there might be guidelines and rules dictating in which way you should build or with which materials, or telling you what the maximum height of your house or distance to the neighbor is, and so on. Those are some of the things we look into at the municipality. We follow a specific process when receiving an application, and the application is sent out to all of our departments at once. In this way, we're able to make a joint handling of the application. An approach to Sønderborg municipality is that we have a lot of positive experience with our quick cafe. It is located at the town hall square in the red building, as you can see in the picture. You can draw a number like you would at a bakery, and a construction expert or staff member will come from the building and housing register, or another staff member of any of the technical departments of the municipality. This is the primary approach to a nice dialogue and good way to solve construction cases together, hereby ensuring that you achieve healthy and energy efficient homes. If any of you have questions, I will do what I can to answer them here and now. Otherwise, feel free to send an SMS or write to our Google account. I guess the information will be shown on the screen now, or else you have the chance to ask questions later. You're also very welcome to pass by the Quick Cafe, but ensure to bring your NEM ID or MID ID. That is our only condition, otherwise we won't be able to help you. For now, Paul, we will answer some open questions, and therefore invite another man into the studio. Charlie, please join. Lena will also be online, but but appear like as you are. Anyone who wants to ask a question, you are welcome, and I already have 10 questions in front of my screen. I will hand them over to Charlie, who will bring them into the studio. The first question is for you, Paul. Is it allowed to place solar panels on all the houses in the municipality, or do areas exist where it is not allowed? There are rules on where to place solar panels and how to place them. There are also rules determining whether you need a permit or not to place the panels. My advice is that if you are interested in placing solar panels, it would be a good idea to come and just have a chat with us. Some of the area developing plans I mentioned earlier determine if an area is open for alternative energy sources or not. So have a chat with us or visit the municipality's website. Here, the local area development plans for each area are listed. Write local plan or locale plan in the search box, and you will be asked to insert your address and find the local area development plan. Another question here on the roof. Are you allowed to install a roof or dormer window without a permit? In general, there are two factors in that question. If you change the area of living space, which would be the case with the dormer window, you need a building permit. Regarding the roof window, it doesn't necessarily change the area of living space. This depends on placement, size, and so on. Another thing is that you still need to ensure to follow the local development plan in your area. This might say that only one roof window is allowed on the roof and not two. Perhaps there are also size limits to obey. You may also live in a house with a high preservation value and is therefore not allowed to change the facade of the house in accordance with your own desires. For this, you need to talk with our preservation architects. In any case, ask the municipality. Lena, there is a question for you. We are many who have made a building certificate and received a C. Will we be able to apply for subsidies from April now that the tax deduction on craftsmen is cancelled, and now that only E, D, F and G certificates receive subsidies? No, you will not. As many of you might have noticed, the subsidies became very popular and people queued for days in order to hand in their application, and many didn't succeed. This scenario wasn't expected, and in the end the rules were changed so that houses of the bottom of the chain were assigned subsidies first. One has to remember that a certificate lasts for 10 years, which means your investment isn't in vain. Just to back you up on what you're saying, those A, B or C are really good certificates that you can be all very proud about. It means that your house lives up to the high energy standards. So what are the rules about noise and heat pumps? Many people have read in the newspaper that heat pumps emit noise. Are you allowed to place a heat pump at the boundary line to your neighbor? No, you can't simply install a heat pump. It is of importance in relation to the building and housing register that the heat pump is your primary energy source. Or a complementary source of energy. Regarding noise, there are rules of how much noise your heat pump may emit close to your neighbors. Something you have to keep in mind is to hire a proper craftsman to install the pump because he knows the rules and limitations. Also, pay attention to how many heat pumps that there are in your area. If there are many, they might together emit so much noise that a total area starts buzzing, which exceeds the legal limits proper for human living conditions. Lena, regarding indoor insulation of outer walls, is it allowed to stuff the walls with as much insulation material as one wants, or is this something we need to be aware about? No, you cannot just insulate on the inside of your walls. You have to be very careful. If the heat does not leave the walls and emerge with cold air, mold can grow and that might not be visible. You might only find out when you remove the insulation or smell the mold. It is important to get advice from a construction technician if you decide to insulate indoors. Especially for cellars, you should never insulate indoors. You really need to know what you're dealing with. I would like to add that it is really difficult to get a cellar legalized for habitation. You will encounter many problems if you think you're going to live in the cellar. Someone writes that they have bought a nice single-family home with one bathroom and would like to add a second bathroom. Do we need to apply for a permit when we already have a drain for the toilet in another room? You have to keep in mind that certain types of construction and an authorization, for instance, plumbing and electrical work, it needs to be performed by an authorized craftsmen that are educated and have permission to carry out these tasks. That is one aspect. Another is that you need to update the building and housing register because there have been a change in the usage of that room. Depending on where you place this bathroom, it is hard to say if you need to apply for a permission. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. We have to look at it specifically. It's a question about wooden houses. What should be done with a wooden house from 2010 that is connected to the district heating? Should one change the heating source and re-insulate? I don't know if I can or I'm allowed to answer this. Let's send it over to Lena. I'm definitely not able to answer. A house from 2010 sounds like a lot must be done, especially if it is connected to the district heating. If re-insulation is necessary, we do have guidelines to these kinds of light walls with wooden covering. When you have to remove the covering or insulate from the inside, have a look at our energy guidance on how to do so. We've gone through all the questions, and on behalf of Project Zero, I would like to thank you a lot for participating today. It is the first time we have tried with different interpreters in different languages. Unfortunately, the English interpreter fell ill, but the English version will be uploaded later. Thank you so much for watching and participating.
It's amazing. It's Sønderborg.
Walk through life. Every day is a new beginning. Shine your light. It's a day and the world is waiting. Move along to the song, singing in your soul. Feel the beat, clap your hands, let it take control. All you need, all you want, are you ready to find your way? 'Cause every day is a new day. And everything's going your way. And you wanna make it last forever. We'll keep it together, 'cause it keeps getting better. Whoa, whoa. Feel the sun upon your shoulders. Find the strength to make you bolder. Yeah. And let each moment take you higher. And higher than you've ever been before. Walk through life.